Hi, welcome to Portage County Matters. I'm Patty Dreier, Portage County Executive. It's really great to have you with us today. I am thrilled about today's show because it's the month of April show, and April is when we especially think about Earth Day, and we think about all sorts of other get outside activities, and I thought that the theme for today's show would be just so perfect for the season, and that is the theme of urban forestry, trees. And our city of Stevens Point has an urban forester that you're going to meet in a few minutes, and he does just a fabulous job. He's known all over the state for his wonderful work, and it's going to be a real honor to share time with Todd Ernster here on this show. So I have one quick note at the top of the show, though, and that is especially for veterans who are listening. Right now in the Portage County Veterans Office in the courthouse, you now have the opportunity to come and apply for any jobs that you're looking for in your own life at the computers in a workstation there. In addition to just having those computers available for your use, for veterans only use, you can also have benefit from our staff that is coming out of the workforce development arena in the state of Wisconsin to assist you in your specific job search. This is a specialist in assisting disabled veterans in finding jobs, but also other veterans. You don't have to be a disabled veteran in order to use these services, and it's free to you. So we hope that you will bring yourself from the library job search area and now use the Veterans Service Office, which is your office anyway, and it'll be a great next bridge for you to the job that you're looking for. Anyway, that's the only news note I have, and I'm really excited now to introduce Todd Ernster. Welcome to the show, Mr. City Forester of the City of Stevens Point.
Okay, thank you very much, Patty. I'm glad to be here. You forgot one holiday in April, though.
What?
Arbor Day.
That's right.
The last Friday in April.
I was waiting for you to mention that one, Todd.
Okay.
Sticking with the theme.
All right.
Well, I know you well, and I am really a person who stands in awe of what you do, and is actually, I guess if we really came down to it, a little bit jealous about what you get to do on a daily basis. You're out there with your team. You're caring for our canopy in the city of Stevens Point. We're caring for individual trees, but also the bigger picture on trees and what that means to our future. So it is just going to be a fun show for folks to hear more about what you do on a daily basis.
Thanks.
Yeah. How big's your staff?
We just have we have 2 full-time employees, and then we have about 5 seasonal staff. But we carry about 2 of those through the season for the most part, and that way I'm very lucky. One gentleman just retired. He was with me the whole time I've been here. He was here for like 35 years. But we're very excited about the person that we brought on. So yeah, Rich Janis was with us for 34 years, I think it was, and then Paul Zeman is the city arborist. He's been with us for 16 years, and we just brought somebody in, Rebecca Danchik. She's going to be part of our team with maintaining the trees on a full-time basis. And we have a seasonal person that's basically been with us for 5 years. He kind of helps out during the winter during his off time, and he does our tree pruning. That's Ken Wanta. So I'm very fortunate having the University of Stevens Point forestry program and the Mid-State Technical program. They have an urban forestry program. So we get a lot of very qualified seasonal help from those 2 educational places.
Yeah, and I know that you have close ties. Are you a graduate?
Yes, I graduated in December of '88.
Right out of the forestry program here at the College of Natural Resources? So
things work out sometimes. Yeah, I graduated, my dad was very happy. I graduated in December and I started in January 3rd.
Excellent. So 35 years?
No, it's 26, let's see, it's 26-ish, I think, somewhere around there for years.
Wow,
yeah.
All right. Well, congratulations.
Yep,
That's a stupendous accomplishment by itself. Now, I know a few things about forestry just from my own natural resource background, but what I would really like in this show is for our residents to know more about why do we invest in trees in a city, any city, not just Stevens Point, and then let's talk about some of the contemporary issues. And a really interesting thing that's going to be happening by the time this show airs, people are going to be seeing green ribbons around trees in our community, and this show will help tell them what it is all about, what we're trying to do through that awareness effort.
I guess we'll start off with the green ribbons. The green ribbons, the Golden Sands Resource Conservation and Development Council, they applied for a grant through the Wisconsin DNR. and they got a grant for that. And part of that grant is to create awareness for regarding Emerald Ash Borer. So these
EAB.
EAB, yes. We'll just go with
many
that
people
then.
will hear that. Emerald Ash Borer, EAB.
So on April 1st, the City of Stevens Point and the University of Wisconsin Stevens Point urban forestry students will be putting green ribbons around the ash trees up and down Main, Clark, North Division, and along the Green Circle Trail along Piffner and Bucol Park. Okay, and what the green ribbons will symbolize is they want the residents and property owners to realize how many ash trees there are in our community. And these trees are going to be at risk to the Emerald Ash Borer.
Let's just stop real quick. Many people may not know that the EAB, the Emerald Ash Borer, is an invasive species. It's a beetle that attacks these trees, this specific species of
just true ash.
Yep. And then, and other communities are experiencing the fallout of that as hundreds of trees die in those communities.
So yes, what the insect does, it came to the United States in 2002. It came into Michigan. Detroit on packing material. And then it's just kind of blossomed out from there, and it attacks just true species of ash, like your green ash, black ash, and white ash, and blue ash. And what it does is the adult lays eggs on the bark, and then the bark, these eggs hatch, and then the larvae, they bore around just inside the bark. And they cut the water that brings that the tree brings up and down in the up in the tree, and if the tree can't get water, it dries out and it becomes very brittle, and this happens very quickly. And there's no natural predators, there's no natural defenses to this, so it's just going unchecked right now. And it's killed millions of trees already in the United States. And the biggest way that it spreads is by people, they love firewood. So all it takes is one infested piece of firewood to move from here to point A to point B, and it just gets. That's how it gets established. So the important thing with the Green Ribbon campaign is not just create awareness of the Emerald Ash Borer, what could be potential loss, but I also want people to know that these trees can be protected. They can be chemically treated. You can do it at home if the tree's under 10 inches across. And you can just get it at any garden center. So if an ash tree is like less than 10 inches across, you can get a product at your garden center. I got this right at Frank's.
So let's say what it is for those that are hearing us on the radio and can't see it on television.
Okay, it's Bug Be Gone, and then I'm trying to think what the other one that they have is Bayer Advanced Tree and Shrub Care, and what you want is something that'll protect against the Emerald Ash Borer. The active ingredient
So we can just ask at our garden shop?
Yep, you want something against the Emerald Ash Borer that has imidacloprid. That's the active ingredient. And it's very simple to use. A 10-inch tree across, it'll cost you less than $20 to treat, but you have to do that every year to protect it.
Interesting. Now, I'm a member, as you know, Todd, I'm a member of the Wisconsin Urban Forestry Council as an appointee, and I've been active in that council for a whole number of years, pretty much almost my whole office as Portage County Executive. And one of the things that we had the great honor of witnessing was when the Urban Forestry Council was here for a meeting in Stevens Point, you and some colleagues, some arborists, had showed us some other methods that are being used to protect ash trees, or at least try to, and we're sort of experimenting on protecting protecting against EAB through these different methods. Like you had some applications into their roots and all different kinds of things. Could you just talk a few moments about that? Then we're going to zoom out and talk about city forestry in general.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's several different application methods that you can, how you can treat your ash tree to protect it from EAB. Okay. And one of them is, as the tree gets larger, you would have to get a certified pesticide applicator. So you'd have to get somebody like a First Choice Tree Care, an Eagle Tree Care, KLM Services to treat your tree, because once the tree gets to about 14 inches across, these products aren't effective then. And then you have to hire somebody to do that. And there's a product called Triage, but that's a restricted use pesticide. So you'd have to pay a tree company to apply those. And some of them are good for 2 years. Some of them you have to do every year. So the Green Ribbon campaign is just to get people informed. First maybe they should find out know what an ash tree looks like.
Yep.
Then they know what to have to look for regarding what Emerald Ash Borer, and then the next step is to evaluate your ash tree. Just because you have an ash tree, maybe you have one that's shading your patio, and it's a very high value tree, and I don't want to lose that tree. It's worth too much to me. That would be a high candidate to have treated. If you have a bunch of ash trees in your yard and some are starting to look sickly and they're starting to die back and they're just not that high value, well, maybe it's time to think, all right, I'll take these trees, some of them down, I'll replant something else, so when I do lose these other ones, I have something in its place.
That's a wonderful tip for people to remember.
Yeah, so that's one of the biggest things that we want to do with the Green Ribbon campaign. Because the other thing is, once EAB shows up, years 1 through 5, you don't really notice it at all. So usually that's when people that's when you don't really even know that it's around. Then once you find it, you'll see trees to start to slowly decline. But it's years 8 through 12 that the insect is in your community. That's when we have this massive die-off of the trees. And that's when we'll lose 80, 90% of the trees within that 4 or 5 year window. Wow. And then it tapers off. And at that point, these tree care companies could be inundated and not being able to keep up. Municipalities could have all these dead street trees lining their streets. Rather than being an asset, they become a liability. And that's why Stevens Point's, I'm very happy they're taking a proactive approach on the mayor and the common council. With tackling this head on and getting ready for it.
We'll have to do a lot more outreach through our towns association and others as well. It's easy to think about it only as you think about street trees, but you've got them in your yards, you've got them in parks, you've got them in woodlots, and when it indeed does hit, as it's hit, for example, in Dane County, we were there for Wisconsin Urban Forestry Council, and you find these tunnels,
D-shaped holes.
Yep, through the bark. And what they've noticed is they have seen a lot more woodpecker action even before they identified that emerald ash borer had been in those neighborhoods. So if people are out there, you understand what an ash tree looks like with its opposite branching design, I guess you would say. Pattern would be a better word, then you notice a lot of woodpecker action, you might want to call your city forester. I'm thinking Todd, Ernster, you would like a call, and folks, you would get out and take a look, I'm sure.
Yep, residents, they also can look at our city website, stevenspoint.com, and I'm very happy we have a real nice brochure along with a lot of other information regarding emerald ash borer as to what an ash tree looks like, what to look for in regards to the insect. It talks about treating the trees to protect against it. So it's a very good, comprehensive website, I think. John Quirk does a great job with keeping that updated.
Indeed, indeed. He also has a great television station as well.
That's right. Now,
and radio station.
This is what the ribbons are going to look like going across the
So it
trees.
says this ash tree is at risk from emerald ash borer, and then it gives the Stevens Point city website.
That's correct, yes.
Wonderful. This is a phenomenal idea.
So
I think it's
going to be a very good, and they're doing it in Wausau, Princeton, and Adams also. So it's for that whole area. That's part of the Golden Sands Resource. Yeah, that part of their grant.
We'll have to give them a special thanks for that. I might even write them a special note because this is significant and I think really creative to get us out and help us understand. I wanted to relate to Wisconsin Urban Forestry Council annual report. It says here that 43% of urban trees are either ash or maple. So when we are talking about the significance of this issue, we're not playing around here. And this will change the whole complexion of our community. This will change shade and air, air pollution control. This will change all sorts of different environmental factors. And also, since trees are even related to the quality of life and health of people, in other ways, besides just environmental ways, more like it's safer communities when you have more trees and the research and so on and so forth. This is really an important issue. Now, communities like Dane County that are dealing with it, or Milwaukee County and so many others that we hear pretty frequently, I mean, there are aggressive efforts. One of the things that I wanted people, and Todd, maybe you can talk about this a little bit, we want to think about what happens when you have to take down hundreds of trees. How many are in our inventory total for the city? I know you know the count.
Yep.
And then how many are ash trees of that total?
We have 7,379 trees along our city right-of-way. That's usually between the street and the sidewalk. And in some areas of Stevens Point, we don't have sidewalk. That's just in the right-of-way. So there's nearly 7,400 street trees that our department's responsible for, okay?
Wow,
so out of those, 860 of those are some form of ash. They're either white ash, black ash, or green ash. So we're at about 11, I think it was 11.6% ash trees, which is not bad because just a few years ago we were close to 14%. And we try to get it, you want to try to keep it no more than 10% of one species, and I'm hoping to get that less, across the broad range of our tree selection. That's why it's so important to know what you have along your, what kind of trees you have along your streets, and that's why we've been working real hard with residents trying to get the word out on, planting something different. Diversity is very important. So when we have a Dutch elm disease or an emerald ash borer or an oak wilt, you're not wiping out hundreds or thousands of trees. So you shouldn't be planting any more ash trees anyhow. So we haven't planted them since 2004, I think it was.
Yeah, so for anybody that's joining us now on the radio or television and hasn't had a chance to know who the guest on the show is here on Portage County Matters, I've got Todd Ernster. He's the city forester for the city of Stevens Point. You said that there were how many? 7,600?
No, 7,380, yeah.
Okay, and then 860 of our trees in our city inventory are ash. Now, again, that doesn't even count anybody's lawn. It doesn't count all the other woodlots and so on that may be around.
Well, we worked with, there was a student at the UWSP. He was a urban forestry student, and part of his internship is he got together a bunch of numbers and random plots and everything else, and he estimated how many ash trees were in the city limits of Stevens Point through that. And we estimated there was 5,000 ash trees in the urban area of Stevens Point. So those 5,000 ash trees are at risk of being lost, whether they're maintained or.
So that's the lawns plus the city trees.
No, that's just on private property.
Private property.
Yeah. So that kind of gave us an idea on how big of an area we would need for our drop-off site.
So talk about a drop-off site. Many folks, that was what I wanted to get to, was the urban wood issue. And I'm thinking about emergency management too. If we get a big storm, we had the straight line winds, which took out a number of trees. But the fact is as you have trees that are not in great health anymore, that only increases our liability and our costs of and risks of cleanup, electrical outages, and so on and so forth.
Our average size of an ash tree on the streets is about 11 inches in diameter, so there's not a lot of large lumber type things that we can make out of that tree. So what we're going to be doing with most of ours is chipping it, and we'll use it for because once you chip it to a certain size, it's not at risk of spreading the insect anyplace.
I see.
Okay, so we'll use that for along our trails, for fill around our playgrounds, and then the rest of it we have an agreement with Zableski Brothers here in town, and we'll be taking it over to them where they grind it up and they use it for for the biofuels plant up in Rothschild. Yeah,
sure.
So we have a spot for it. It's not going in the landfill. I had one gentleman that was looking for some of the wood. I think he was making basket weaving. He was looking just for black ash. So we're looking for all types of different uses other than just cutting them down. But there's a lot more value to the trees other than just removing them. So hopefully we're going to be the council passed a resolution that we're going to try to they put aside $400,000 to help remove and replace the trees, and also we're going to be looking at treating some of the trees so they're not lost, because there is a benefit, especially in our downtown areas. It takes a lot to get those trees established, and there's a cost to removing them and then trying to getting them established. So we're going to be treating some of them also.
So I have a quote that I found for the show that I just think I would like you to comment on.
Okay.
This is from Dr. Richard Leakey, and this is again out of our Urban Forestry Council report. This just happens to be from the 2007 report. His quote is, "We make an immense mistake when we think of trees as solely aesthetic members of a community. They cut pollution, they cool the air, they prevent erosion, they muffle sound, and they produce oxygen. Then, after all that, they look good."
Yeah.
So as you go about your business on a daily basis, are you really thinking as much about the pollution, the cooling, the erosion? What do you think about as urban forester?
Well, I hate doing this, but with our all our trees that are on the city of Stevens Point, okay, the 7,400 of them, it's in an inventory. So with each address we have, we know what each tree is, what the species is, what the size of the tree is, and for the most part, what the condition of the tree is. Okay, so with that information, they took all the U.S. Forest Service and some other organization, and Davy Tree Care, they took all that information and pulled it together, and they were able to calculate the benefits that you were just talking about. And I think it's very important that people are aware that that there is a benefit other than just looking nice, but they can help reduce their stormwater runoff, which is important right now.
Yes, of course.
I mean, might not be helping too much now because there's no leaves, but they help with that. They help cool our homes. They help break the wind, so they can help reduce our heating costs also. They take up CO2. They help increase our property values. And we have all that also in a nice little brochure here on it, which can be seen on our website also, because it talks about all those benefits that you're just speaking of. And then there's all these other little side benefits that it's hard to put a value on, like reducing stress. I think you could tell the vitality of a community by if they have a well-landscaped, well-maintained municipality, business district, whatever you want to say.
Exactly. It says here also that Wisconsin's urban forests, so we're doing inventories across cities everywhere, and folks may not know that, but I mean the science, the data collection is a really important piece in measuring our canopy and so on, especially as we look to climate change effects and so on. But it says here that Wisconsin urban forests have a replacement value of, I'll give you a moment, viewers and listeners, to take a guess. It's $11 billion. And again, we often forget that, I think, when we're going about our drive, our commute, or our bicycle ride, or raking the leaves in the fall. It says here that an average, we have an average canopy cover of 14%, which is well below the 40% target set by American forests. And so we are working to try to improve our canopy cover across the state. It's really an interesting thing when you zoom out from the perspective of the Wisconsin Urban Forestry Council to see how all of these other localized efforts, because it's a tree by tree effort for urban forestry work, right? So it's zoom out, get the bigger picture, and then come right back down to how do you treat that single tree? Yep. And how do you manage for the wood utilization and optimization? If this is going to be a loss from this side of the equation, what can we do to make the most out of it on the other side?
Yes, no, and that's what I liked about urban forestry, is looking at the tree as an individual rather than just the broad woods, just the value, and that's the only, I guess that's one good thing with this whole EAB thing, is we've concentrated so much now on species diversity that we're planting a whole bunch of different tree species, even more so than we have in the past. And that part is actually kind of fun, looking at all that.
Why don't you name some of the species that folks might not be first thinking about when you're replanting efforts here?
Okay, we're planting a lot of ginkgo, like autumn gold ginkgo.
I'm wearing a ginkgo leaf on my necklace today. I did this on purpose.
Okay, yes. And then Amromachia, that's a low-growing tree. That's a nitrogen-fixing type plant. And I think there's a lot of potential with that in the urban environment, because it seems like it can take a real harsh environment, a crappy site, and still thrive on it. I think that's an Asian species. Now we're doing a thornless cockspur hawthorn. We're doing a lot of hackberries.
I've been seeing them.
Yep,
yes.
Some different types of elms. There's some Dutch elm disease resistant elms that we're actually putting back in. Some Asiatic elms. Turkish filbert.
You know what? I'm going to have to go back to forestry class and learn the new trees, because I wouldn't even know how to identify those.
Yeah, and then a small growing tree that I'm pretty excited about is the autumn brilliant serviceberry, and that's one that we work with the Audubon Society with. And it's just
good for birds. Yep,
oh,
exactly.
They just love it. The cedar waxwings and the robins and even the squirrels love it. And the berries never hit the ground, and because they love it. They're just so attracted to it. And the berries taste very good too. So there's
it blooms. Yes.
Oh yeah, it has a little white
springtime.
flower on it. Yes, mm-hmm. And then you have the crab apples and the Japanese tree lilacs. But we don't plant many maples because we're at about 24% maples on our boulevard. So that's one of the.
Go ahead.
Well, everybody wants a red maple. They want that red color in the fall. But there's some other trees. We're planting, what is it called? Evening Glow, I think, Buckeye, that has a brilliant red or orangish color. So you can get some other plants to do the same thing. It's not a very heavy fruiting type tree, that buckeye.
And some of the red maples are weedy in the forest, and that's a problem too. So you're kind of trying to balance across all of these things. Now, one other thing I wanted to point out here is we've got maybe 4 minutes or so in the show. It says that a healthy tree canopy functions as a green infrastructure, providing environmental, social, and economic services that, unlike gray infrastructure, appreciates in value over time. That's the other thing. It's the trees properly cared for are growing assets that are worth 3 times their investment.
Yep.
I just find that fascinating and just inspirational, actually, to think about how we can multiply our investments in our communities by planting trees.
Yep, and that's one of our goals of our program is to maintain our younger trees. Right now, we do a lot of structural pruning. So as they get larger, we don't have any branch failure. It's a well-maintained asset that's going to end up increasing in value, and that's the only thing that our urban forest is going to keep doing. It's going to be growing in value as long as we keep maintaining it. And I think with our history, our heritage, that I think Stephen's points.
It's our tradition.
It's going to do that, yes.
And this is the home of the urban forestry program that's world-renowned. So it makes sense that we're carrying the way we are here locally, and that's one of the attractions, I think, to our community as it stands today. At our county seat, because certainly our community is more than the city of Stevens Point. Now, Todd, talk about Tree City USA.
I believe this is our 34th year that we'll be a Tree City USA, and I think we've been oh shoot, I can't remember. I think it's like 14 years we've received the Growth Award. And you have to have a tree board, which our park board is. You have to have a tree ordinance, which we have a very good tree ordinance. The forester before me wrote that, and it's used as an example a lot of our communities. You have to have a Arbor Day observance, and then you have to, I think that was all of them.
Yeah, well, and that's a great rundown too.
I think it just shows community pride, community commitment to your city trees, and I think it just, once again, it shows your overall vitality for a community if you have well-maintained trees. I mean, you look at some of the communities in the county and in the city, and the ones that are attractive, they talk about the tree-lined streets. That's what everybody kind of strives for.
And urban trees that you take care of are not only street side trees.
Nope.
You've got park trees that you also care for,
yes,
city parks?
There's another 335 ash trees in there, but yeah, we also maintain all the city park trees and also
some cemeteries.
The cemeteries and parking lots. There's 16 parking lots, so we also
cool.
Yeah, so we're in the process of changing the tree species there a little bit too, because there was a lot of ash planted because it was such a good tree, but we're replacing that little by little and transitioning it slowly.
One of the things also that we talk about in the urban forestry circles in the state is that we talk about the bug du jour. So the bug of the day, and the emerald ash borer is the bug of the day, unfortunately, for us, but it prepares us then to be ready for the bugs of the day tomorrow and the day after that, and that is through really diversity, we're making such a big difference. Todd Ernster, I want to thank you for your service, for making our world so much more beautiful and healthy through your work, and we are greatly appreciative of your efforts. You pass it along to all the other great folks you work with.
Thank you.
Our next show for Portage County Matters is going to be an opportunity to continue the conversation about the Wisconsin Towns Association with Mike Pagel. He's the chairman of our Portage County chapter. So looking forward to having Mike with us again and talking about towns. Thanks everybody for joining us.